Are you guys ready to take back New York City?
Yes!
Are you ready to make NYC more affordable?
Yes!
Even though none of you pay your own rent anyway?
Yes!
Do you guys hate your parents?
Yes!
Even though they paid for your college education where you learned all these ideas?
Yes!
Are you ready to get rid of all Zionists in New York City?
Yes!
Even though, of course, the majority of them are Jewish, but we'll call them Zionists?
Yes!
Are you ready to not arrest violent criminals in the streets of New York?
Yes!
But we will arrest Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu?
Yes!
Are you ready to turn NYC into San Francisco?
Yes!
Are you ready to take power away from corporations and billionaires?
Yes!
And instead give that power to politicians to rule over you by force?
Yes! Oh my God, yes.
Are you ready to eliminate luxuries in your life like matcha tea, smoothies, and hot yoga?
No.
Are you ready to pay your fair share and higher taxes?
No.
So it's only other people's money that we're going to use, not yours.
Yes!
Are you guys...
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Power Program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Good Lawgic. I hope you had a great day. It is still pretty sweltering here in New York. Pretty. It's hot. It's muggy, and I love it. It's actually a big thing. There's a big thing that we're not supposed to complain about the weather. So I'm definitely not complaining. It's an adjustment. It's a difference. It's the variation in the weather that makes life worth living, isn't it? And preferably in air-conditioned premises. Tonight, I have a very special privilege of bringing to you my favorite all-time guest, the best guest I've ever had, and he's probably been on the show more than any other guest I've had. I think he's probably been here more than any other. He is my favorite guest. I am going to caution you that due to technical difficulties that we could not surmount, he's going to be sitting in darkness. When I say darkness, I mean no camera. There's no camera, but there hopefully there's audio. And with that, I say, welcome back, Dad.
Good morning, good evening to everyone over there. I'm
before we get started, I
talking
just
from the Holy Land. I'm speaking to you from the Holy Land.
That's correct.
And I've been here. In fact, I was not planning to be here, but I have been marooned here because for almost 2 weeks there were no flights out. And
hold 1 second. I just want to check with my audience that our audio levels are equal, because sometimes when I have a guest, I have one of us sounds a lot louder than others. So if we're equal, in that case, just put a thumbs up. If my father is too high, then just put a 1. And if I'm too high, put a 2. If you guys can just do that, that would be awesome. So if my father is much louder than me, which I suspect he might be, then put a 1 in the chat. And if I'm louder than him, just put a 2. And people are saying audio is fine. Okay, people thumbs up. Right. Good, let's go.
So my wife and I were supposed to come back on Monday. And Monday was very probably the last day on which there were no normal flights, or certainly maybe Tuesday also, I'm not sure. And when I spoke with the airline, I was informed that there's no flight for me, and therefore I have to reschedule. And I rescheduled, and when they rescheduled me, and when they rescheduled me for 3 weeks from next Tuesday, actually a 4-week delay. So I am here. I was here during the war, and during the war, where I am, I'm not on the coast. I'm not near Tel Aviv or Haifa. And I heard the missiles overhead, and they warned us that we should go to safe rooms, or in many cases to stay in the hallway. And there have been a number of very interesting incidents, which many people term straight away as a miracle. Not far from where I am, there was the danger here again was not from direct missiles. The danger was from shrapnel, because when they fired again missiles to knock out the Iranian missiles, what happened was that they created shrapnel, and the shrapnel landed all over. And there's a building not too far from here where there was a young couple with a baby on the top floor, and they were told, go into the stairwell. You'll be safer in the stairwell. And they didn't do it, and a piece of shrapnel hit the top of the building. They were on the top floor, and the result was that, fortunately, they didn't go into the hallway because the shrapnel hit the hallway, and who knows what would have happened to them had they been in the hallway. They were in the apartment. The apartment is fine. They were fine. So a lot of things like this have been going on here. People are talking about it all the time. And it's a real weird feeling for me coming from the United States, having remembered as a child when they practiced this foolish shelter drills against nuclear war, where we hid under desks in the 1950s. And even I, at that age, thought to myself, if there's a big bomb, a nuclear bomb, being under the desk isn't going to help. But the bottom line is the war at least has paused.
Mm-hmm.
Is it over? I'm not sure, for many reasons. But on the bottom line, what?
Just some people are not sure who you are. So just to clarify, this is my father. He is in Israel right now, and he's been there. He's been held over there, as he was just explaining, for he's going to be held over there for another 4 weeks. He was supposed to leave last Monday because of the 12-day war, which hopefully will forever be remembered as 12-day war, because it actually reaches a permanent ceasefire. In that case, he's hopefully, God willing, going to be coming back, they say, in 4 weeks because of the rescheduling all the flights they had to do during the pause in commercial flights. So, and my father, those of you who are unaware, he's been on the show many times. People call him Great Lawgic. It's kind of a nickname he's gotten.
Which is embarrassing.
He also, he's both a rabbi and he's a doctor. He has a doctorate in medieval Christian Muslim relations. So when it comes to issues related to the Middle East, he knows a great deal of history about the relationships between Christians and Muslims, which many people hopefully find insightful as to the nature of these different cultures interacting with each other. So with that, yes, we got Daddy Lawgic. Daddy Trump says hello. I'm glad. Anyhow, so you were saying how you were delayed. How you've been delayed? I was curious. You were saying that the missiles flying overhead. When you saw them flying overhead,
I didn't see them. Where I was, I couldn't see them.
But when is this something? Would the sirens go off even if the missiles were anticipated to hit 60 miles away because it's going overhead, and you all had to run to shelter at that point, or is it only when missiles were expected to be incoming in the Jerusalem area where you are?
All right. Well, first of all, I'm a little west of Jerusalem, and they also didn't aim at Jerusalem, most apparently because of a lot of Arabs there. And although there is no love lost between the Persians and the Arabs, which if you want we can talk about, they aimed at the coast by and large, or in the south. There's a city called Beersheba. This is the largest city in the south, and there's an army base near there. There's also a city not too far from there where the Israeli have their nuclear materials.
Mm-hmm.
So they may have aimed over there. What would normally happen is the cell phone would give out a horrible siren type sound. The cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
A message would come up in Hebrew to the effect that you should shelter because in 10 minutes there's going to be a missile coming in. And then there would be about 8 minutes later, the city here would, and this is the city, it's called Modi'in Elite, and they would sound a siren. It's a siren they normally sound Friday to signify that Sabbath is coming, but now they sounded it much longer, and there was like a wavy sound to warn you that you better get in somewhere because the missiles are coming in, and the missiles came in. That's how it was. And it's not really scary if you take the intellectual thought that, all right, so there's one or two missiles coming in. Not really scary. Relatively a big place. And the chances of you getting a hit near here are about 10,000 to 1 per missile.
Right.
So now they've sent hundreds of missiles.
Right.
But still, they're only I mentioned that one hit before. I think there were 2 hits in the entire war in this community, and this community has about 30,000 people. Mm-hmm. So it's not overly likely at any moment. But if there's a missile, as we say in English, with your name on it, God forbid, then it could be very bad.
Right.
And that was for people.
Unfortunately,
a number of people were killed. Not a large number, but a number of people have been killed, and hundreds were injured, and some were maimed. The Iranians, toward the end of the war, fired a missile which is a cluster bomb, so that it broke into 10 missiles or 8 missiles before it struck. So certain areas were getting hit by it with 8 missiles at once, not with just 1 missile. Mm-hmm. So it was that was not too good.
Right. What is what were your thoughts about? Well, let me ask you this: what are your thoughts about whether or not what do you think the chances are that the current ceasefire will hold up, for the foreseeable future?
It's an interesting question. I would say that at the moment it's likely, because Israel is at the moment not going to do anything, most likely, and I'll explain why in a minute. And I don't think Iran wants to fire at the moment, because I think Iran has been hurt militarily. And Iran also does not want the war to really start, because if the war really were to start again, it's possible that the government will have more issues, which is a whole interesting question, which you can talk about later if you want. What's going to be with the government there, and the government, what it is, etc., and so forth. The bottom line is that I don't think it's likely to start up again unless President Trump gives a green light. I'm not at all sure that Israel wanted to stop the war. Not that Israel likes war. Israel does not like war. But the regime over there, which has been in power now for some 46 years, that regime basically wants to destroy Israel. And that is not hyperbole. That is not just words. They really, really, really want to destroy Israel. Israel has destroyed it in one of the last attacks, and I'm sure it'll be rebuilt. They had in central Tehran, the capital, they have a clock with a countdown to 2040, saying that by 2040, Israel will be off the map. And there's a countdown clock. The way we have a clock on the national debt going up, they have a clock on the time coming down until they say there'll be no more state of Israel. And the reason for that, very simply, is because this war with them, the war with Hamas, Hezbollah, and one of the Houthis who joined in, this war is a religious war. And anyone who tells you that it's a land war is ignorant, or is trying to obfuscate, to cover up the real reason for the war. That's the real reason. If we go back to the beginnings of Israel, if we go back to what happened in the 1900s, and the situation between Israel and the Arabs, if we go back and we examine the government in Iran, especially now, with the mullah government in Iran. All of these things really, really are religious from the point of view of Islam, and that is true generally speaking. Uh, Not only in the Middle East but in Europe as well. I understand the 12 largest cities in England have Muslim mayors. Islam is a religion that wants to spread, and it will spread peacefully up to a certain point, and then when it reaches that point, those who fight it, meaning that doesn't mean with weapons, but with words, with other things, will be silenced. In the same vein that, for example, in Iran, that the those who object to the regime there have been silenced, jailed, or worse,
Can you
tortured.
explain? Can you explain? Actually, let me just pause for 1 second. I finally was able to get into. I was having trouble bringing up the Rumble chat, but I got it now. So I wanted to say, God bless you, Mini Tico, who hit me with a $50 Rumble rant saying, "Happy birthday, Joe, and love that you're safe and remain safe. Great Lawgic." That's very kind of you. Thank you, and thank you for that very, very generous birthday
Thank
gift.
you so much. Thank
And
you on his behalf.
And Uzelian says, "We're glad you're safe and hope you can get back to your son soon. We need you in New York to help vote against the socialists." Are
Yeah,
you?
well, I know that. I was upset that I didn't. I was due to come back on Monday, and I was planning to vote.
Right.
But whatever.
And I would like your take on that, because I actually spent like an hour and a half this evening, because I got back from I went out with Lady Lawgic for dinner for my birthday, and we got back a little earlier than anticipated. And when I got back here, so I ended up jumping on a space because I had a while before the show was starting. A space, I know you probably don't know what that is. That on X they have like panels of people who will talk about a topic, and the folks are able to listen in. So I was on a panel there. We were talking about this New York City, whether New York City is going to be run by a Muslim, and the best strategy to fight against him, because he is a frothing socialist, and he's a proud. He bills himself as a communist. So then the most effective tactic to go after him. So I'm curious about your take. Do you think that Cuomo, Adams, or Sliwa has the best chance of taking him down? We'll come back to the Middle East in a moment, but I'm curious about
I'm
that.
not sure. I have personally a lot of problems with Cuomo because of his, shall we say, personal activities.
Okay.
Right.
Not what
Adams.
he did during COVID? You have more
Well,
bother? Are
no,
you really more
no,
bother?
no. I'm sorry. I forgot that. Absolutely. You're right, too.
Okay.
100%. They
Okay.
actually murdered people, they say. I don't know. His policies murdered people.
Tens of policy. No, he did. I'll tell you why he did. Okay. This is why I will forever say Cuomo murdered thousands of people. Because where other states were basically saying we're going to keep those who are infected with COVID away from others, he purposefully changed Medicare policy, which Medicare policy in general was we're going to keep these folks here until they are, if someone's in a nursing home, we're going to keep them here until they're better. He said, no, our hospital's overrun. So even if they're still contagious, we're going to send these elderly people back to the nursing home. I got a ship over here in the harbor from Trump that I'm not going to use at all. Instead, I'm not going to, for logic's sake, just keep different nursing homes, some with those who are infected and those who are not, in order to sort of keep, a distance between them. And it was one of five governors. He's one of five governors who implemented a policy that said you have to get them out of the hospital as soon as they no longer need emergency care, even if they're still contagious, and send them back to those non-infected elderly patients who are the most susceptible people on the planet to die from COVID, and he sent them back. That's what this monster did, and he ended up basically causing COVID to run wild and rampant through every adult care facility, and to the most likely people to die from COVID. He basically said, I'm going to make it as likely as possible that you're going to get it. And then I'm going to partition them away from their families where they can't even hug and kiss them goodbye. It was monstrous, and it was foreseeably stupid. I
forgot.
And Wolf and Gavin Newsom and Gretchen Whitmer. There were five, and Murphy from my own company. Those are the 5 Democrat governors who had that policy, and that's why they saw such massive mortality. I just want. I had to get that off my chest because I
No. You're right. It escaped me for a minute or two. As soon as you said that, I remembered. But the bottom line is, all right, for many reasons, I would not go near Cuomo. Adams, I believe, was framed, and I don't think he was bad. He was bad as a mayor whatsoever. Sliwa, I think, would be a good mayor. I don't think he's going to win. But I think he would be a good mayor if he were to win. I don't know. The question is now what's going to be in the general election. I hope this fellow is defeated. There are many Muslims in New York City. Many Muslims. For those who don't New York, I mean, I see them around. I see their mosques. I see when you drive from my house to the airport, you pass a madrasa, a Muslim school. So there are a lot of Muslims. In fact, and I know it's worse today. Worse is the wrong word. I know it's more. There are more today. For a particular reason, I went to a mall in Queens. The mall is right off the main highway. It's known as the Queens Center Mall. It used to be there a huge Macy's.
the Queens Plaza Mall, right?
What Queens Plaza Mall?
Right.
All right. So I went there. I had to do business there with a particular place, and that was in 2014, and it's more today, I am sure. And when I went in there to do that business, I felt like I was in a mall in Egypt that I'd been in 40 years earlier, or 35. Then it was 35 years earlier. I felt this really unbelievable that it had that same feeling, a certain feeling that you have when you're in a third world place. And this was a mall which, before Amazon and before all the things we have now, which his mother and I used to go to all the time to shop.
I remember it.
Yeah, right. But no longer. It's really. I mean, I haven't been there again since 2014.
Wow.
So she'll tell you, yeah. I do my shopping in other places, or I go to occasionally when I do go to malls. I go to malls in Nassau County, which is outside of New York City, and yes, that's what it is, and that's what's happening here, and of course the sanctuary city business makes it worse.
Yeah.
It's been accelerated. I mean, this is not what we really going to talk about, but
Right.
this is what you're living with if you're in New York, and that's the way it goes back. And I see a question here.
Doesn't
Isaac and Ishmael.
Doesn't it go all the way back to Isaac and Ishmael?
Yeah, well, all right. Now, all right. So Isaac and all right, as he's known in English as Ismail or Ismail in Arabic. Yes, and obviously, although the Jewish Medrash, which is a book or a series of books on the Bible with things that were not canonized, information not canonized, says that they did make peace later in life. But the Arabs have a whole different view on all of this. They say, for example, we have what's known as the binding of Isaac. Christian Bibles call it the sacrifice. We don't call it a sacrifice because sacrifice didn't happen in the sense that he did not become permanently a sacrifice. And the result is that the Muslims believe that Ismail, as they would say, that he is the true heir to Abraham. And that's one of the arguments they use to say that we don't have the claim to this area, meaning Israel, in spite of the fact that the main claim we do have, and their claim also, from a legal point of view, is the Bible. And the Bible says that we got the claim that it says that he sent away Abraham, ultimately everybody except Isaac, so there would be no arguments on the inheritance.
But But you were saying that they raise a claim that Ismail was the one who was
Right. Oh, yeah. They teach this to their children. Of
right.
course. And their children believe that he was the one who was bound up or sacrificed, whatever word you want to use. Yeah, that's what they believe. They're absolutely right.
Sorry. Carson Depp says 1 in 5 Jewish Dems voted for Mamdani. There have been renegades and Mishmadim back to Korach. We have Kapos and Judenrat Jews. What percent of Jews does your father think are hostile to Jews and Judaism?
What percentage? Well, it depends.
I mean, I guess how do you define hostile? I mean, that's the first.
Right. Is that right? Mm-hmm. You know, I'm going to tell everyone something which I normally wouldn't say on the air, but it makes a point. I teach Jewish law also, train rabbis, and I always tell them the devil is in the definition. How do you define a term? How do you say that something is permitted or not permitted? And this comes up hundreds of times. And this is true in law too, as I'm sure he can tell you good logic better than I when American law. So how do you define these things? That's the question. How do we define anything that we're going to work on or talk about, and anything that has applicability? So that is true with good and evil. I mean, we look at what AOC did, how she brought in.
What percent do you think? I'll try to frame the question. I'll try to frame the question in a way that at least we can start to parse out what this question is. It's like, what percent of Jews are hostile to Judaism as this, that their motivation for their actions is an anger or a self-hatred with Judaism. Would you think that's 5%?
It also may be that your mother had an expression that some people are so open-minded that their brains are falling out.
I actually quoted her on that recently, but yeah.
Oh, you did? All right. Anyway, yeah. So the bottom line is how can I not vote for a Muslim? That would be bigoted, and people have been, and they attend many Jews, especially the ones who are less religious, in the sense of less influenced by Jewish law. They would claim they're religious anyway. They might say they're more religious than we because they're more open-minded. Some people will say that. In any event, though, those who are like this, the very liberal ones, may vote for him, and there are many who didn't vote for him now who will vote for him in November, even though it means he'll become the mayor. In other words, they will not vote Republican. The same way there were many people who refused to vote for Donald Trump for many, many reasons. And look, I don't want to talk about that.
All right, so fine.
It's really not appropriate on this point. Yeah.
Can you explain, because you were talking about the difference between Iranian and between Persians and Arabs. So my question is, can you explain first and foremost what makes someone an Arab versus being a Persian, and also like about the relationship between Arabs and Persians? Because you made reference earlier to the fact that Persians are not big fans of Arabs. So I'm wondering if you can explain what the distinction is historically, and how it is that how Persians, to most Americans, and myself included, I have a very difficult time distinguishing between this Middle Easterner and that Middle Easterner, and we tend to lump them together as just Arabs. So maybe you can explain what the distinction is. Is it purely genetic? Is it something more than that? And about the dynamic of that relationship between those two entities.
All right. Now, you're not wrong to say that it's obviously genetic, but the main thing that determines if a person is an Arab or a Persian or Iranian, which they use that term now, is the language, which is his native language.
Mm-hmm.
Farsi is an Indo-European. I don't know if you want, I can explain this. but
Please.
I'll just say it, and if the audience wants more, I'll give them more. Farsi is Indo-European, and Arabic is Semitic. They're not related linguistically, or hardly related linguistically at all. Farsi linguistically is closer to English than it is to Arabic
Really?
linguistically. Yes. And
When you say linguistically, you mean the root words and things of that nature?
I mean grammatically, the grammatical structure, and also the way they that people who are experts in language, the way they classify language. There are three main groups: the Sinaitic, which is Chinese, and for example, Turkish is Sinaitic because the Turks, their language is influenced similar to Chinese in certain ways. That does not mean that every Turk speaks or understands Chinese, but linguistically, Turkish, Finnish, Hungarian are closer. Those are the three in Europe, are closer to the Chinese and Japanese and Korean and all the other languages of the Far East. Linguistically, they're closer to that because their roots and their structure comes from the former barbarians who invaded Europe from different times and moved in and brought those languages with them. So you have in Persian, and I do not know historically why, but the Persians come in the 6th century before the Common Era, and the Persians spoke a different language, which is closer to theoretically Russian or even English than Arabic, which is closer to Hebrew, closer to Aramaic or Syriac, closer to Ethiopian. Although when I was on an Ethiopian plane, I was trying to learn the numbers, and some of them are very similar to Hebrew, Arabic, and Aramaic, and others are not. But anyway,
so why is there this
is an Indo-European language?
What's the source of there being a division between them? There seems to be an enmity, is what I was gathering from what you were saying. So that's why.
The Persians.
Why there is that enmity.
The Persians were conquered by the Muslims in the middle of the 7th century, or actually the 3rd to 4th decade of the 7th century. They were conquered by Muslims.
So roughly 1,300 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And they resented that. And the Muslim leadership has said that the Persians were the people of the book, or similar, and they didn't murder them all the same way they didn't murder Jews and Christians. But the Persians even kept their identity, and I would say that overwhelmingly most of the accomplishments during the medieval Islamic period, scientific accomplishments, medical accomplishments, are made by Muslims of Persian descent. The Persians were very intellectual compared to the Arabs in the desert. It's interesting to note that there was one of the early books written on the two major caliphal dynasties in Orthodox Islam. There's another one in Shiite, but the two were the Umayyad, which is known as the Umayyad in English, and the Abbasid or Bassid in English. Those two dynasties are the main caliphal dynasties. The first one is from 660 to 749-50. It's overrun then. It's overrun by the second one, the Abbasid. Now, the Abbasid dynasty, they all spoke Arabic, but they came from the areas of Persia. And one of the reasons that it was successful in the conquest was it had the support of the Persians, because they didn't like the Umayyads. And it's interesting because there was a man who wrote more than 100 years ago a book, The Arab Kingdom and Its Fall. Wellhausen, his name was. He, in his book, he calls it the Arab Kingdom because he's the real Arab kingdom. The only dynasty was the Umayyad dynasty, or the Umayyad in English, Umayyad dynasty, which comes from the old ruling family of Mecca before Muhammad was even born, and the ruling family of Quraysh, Muawiyah, who founded that Umayyad dynasty. He was one of the prominent people in that. Well, later on, obviously, later on when he becomes caliph in 661.
Let me get to some chats here, and I have a whole bunch of more questions, but I just want to get this out. So he said that he gave me a question there. Fans said, apparently this is too spicy for a super chat. Communists are vain, greedy, and want your money and control. Their true nature will be revealed. Bless them. Let God heap coals on their heads. Okay. Very, very strong feelings.
I was going to say, I didn't see that here.
No, they don't allow that type of talk. Pam says, happy to hear from excellent Lawgic. Thank you, good Lawgic. My pleasure. Frankie Sharat saying, happy birthday to one of my favorite creators. I've been a member for 35 months. We're just about to hit our 3-year. That's pretty cool. 3 years. You've always been the good vibes, laughs, and moments I didn't know I needed. Thank you, Joe. I hope today's as awesome as you are. You are way too kind. God bless you. Thank you so much, Frankie.
This lady is very sweet, and it's very, very nice of her. And she should have only good things.
Amen. Shin Inaho says, hello, good Lawgic and great Lawgic. I would like to know your thoughts on Chinese Jews, Kaifeng Jews. Have a good day. You have any thoughts
we need his mama for this. We need his mother for this. She knows so much about them. I know so little about them.
My mother, the reason he's saying
during a major flood in this, I think the 16th century, might have been the 17th. I'm not sure. They were a separate group of Jews. Some say they were descended from Jewish business people that were in China. And there was, during the 9th century, fascinating group of men called the Radhanite merchants. The Radhanite merchants, I mean, I even have somewhere in this computer, I could probably find it, but I don't take the time now. A statue during the Tang Dynasty, which is in power in the 8th, 9th century. The Tang Dynasty, and there someone made a statue of a Jewish merchant with a big pointed hat. The Radhanite merchants had a chain of merchants running from China to central France. They didn't all know each other, of course. Remember, in those days, travel was dangerous. Communication was almost nil, but that existed. They existed, and they sent, what did they do? They sent goods. Goods were traded from one Jewish merchant to another because they were Jews. They trusted each other, and they worked together. And up until the period where it became so that the trade routes were closed down, then they ceased to. Then the Jewish chain broke. But that they were the main importers of Chinese goods for about 100 years there, in that period in the 8th, 9th century. That's when, basically, they were significant in influencing the beginnings of economic development in Europe after the period of the decline of the Roman Empire. Hi, Shin. All right. That was
anyway. So the reason my father made reference to my mother is because my mother, like my father, was a historian. But while my father's passion is the Middle East, my mother's passion was always China. So she spoke Chinese, although she denied it. She at least comprehended Chinese, and she spent a great deal of her that for her recreation was studying Chinese culture and Chinese history. So that's why he made reference to my mother there. Where did Babylonians go, and who are their descendants?
Well, Babylonia is Iraq. That's the area of Babylonia is Iraq. And their descendants are, they're conquered. I mean, the Babylonians were conquered. In fact, actually, technically, the Babylonians were conquered by someone we've been talking about. Because in the 6th century, the Persians conquered Babylonia. Belshazzar was overthrown, established the Persian Empire, and that the Persians then allowed the Jews to come back.
You're talking 6th century BC.
Right. I'm sorry. Yes,
right.
Of course.
2,600 years ago. Right. Okay.
Right. Yeah. That's.
But there were still Babylonians. There were still Babylonians 2,000 years ago. There were still Babylonians. I mean, when the Jews went into Babylonia, went into diaspora, and after the destruction of the first temple, they went to Babylonia. That was roughly 2,500 years ago, right?
That's correct. That's another disputed date. But anyway, you know that, I'm sure. In any event, there was the Babylonians allowed us to come back and rebuild the Holy Temple here, which was destroyed in either 68 or 70, depending again on the sources. And that was the Babylonians were very good to us at that period. Generally, although we have a couple of people who were pretty bad, but historically the Babylonians were relatively very good. I'm sorry, not Babylon, the Persians. And I said the Babylonians, I apologize. The Persians.
Right. That's what I thought. See, I thought Jews went more towards Persia in the time of. Wait, they went to Babylonia after the first diaspora, after the second diaspora.
No, they went to Babylonia. Nebuchadnezzar. They went to Babylonia. Bavel. This is Babylonia.
I know, because I'm saying the whole story with Haman and Esther, Mordecai.
That's later. That's later.
But that's in Persia.
That's in Persia. It was a large community in Persia at that time.
Because they were spread out in different communities. All right.
In fact, we were talking last night about the Hebrew date. Remember?
Right. Yeah.
And, right. And the messages going out. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A sniffer in chief, member for 35 months, just like Frankie. Go, Frankie, the 35-month club. Happy birthday, Joe. Thank you so much, sniffer in chief. And also to DES saying happy birthday to many more blessed days with your father. Amen. Many, many more. God bless you, Dr. Nero. May God keep you safe. Thank you so much. Happy birthday, Joe.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate
a wonderful
nice lady. Son. She's very kind. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Curious Angel. So I wanted to get more. I want to start talking about more contemporary things, although I should get to this real first. Spud's 1964.
Hold on. 1 minute. I have to plug this in. I fell out. Just a minute. My battery is running low. I'll be cut off. Oh, no.
All right, so I'll just read this. Joe, read the directive language from Cuomo, Murphy, Wolf, Whitmer, and Newsom.
Oh, boy. All right. I need a minute.
They're all eerily familiar. All hell.
All right. I don't know why it came on, but it did.
All hell, YZ, the ambassador to Armenia. It's probably good that he didn't hear that one. No, he would have laughed at that, actually. If Zoran essentially turns New York City into Dearborn, I doubt Sharia law will be well received by the folks in Greenwich Village. They should be careful what they wish for. That's the chair. And yes, new member. Look at that, Morabado. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. I was reading off rants while you were there, and someone was referencing you as the ambassador.
Okay, here. All right, we took care of that. Hopefully.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Great. So where were we? Yes, I wanted to talk to you about the current situation. Well, we're talking about Persians per se. Persians are Shia Muslims in general?
Most of them. Thank you.
Okay.
Most of them, absolutely.
Okay, and
let me. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Persians and the current Persians. All
okay.
Right. The Persians up until 1979, the government of Persia, many different governments, but there was a dynasty, the Pahlavi dynasty, which emerges during the 1930s. And this dynasty, especially in the 40s, actually, Reza Shah, who was the progenitor of the dynasty, was actually pro-Nazi at one point. He had a prime minister who was pro-communist later, that the United States got rid of. And there's the Pahlavian dynasty later on under Reza Shah was very, very pro-American.
What year is this? Are we talking?
Well, it's overthrown in 1979. This is in the 50s, 60s, etc.
Right.
Now,
and during that period, you could see the Westernization of Iran, where it's like the women were not dressed in the same burqas.
They're dressed in Western clothes.
Yeah, they're dressed in Western clothes.
In fact, I saw recently a clip on the history of the current regime, and they or that government, and those guys, you see pictures in 1970s, the women are wearing normal skirts, normal clothing, their short sleeve shirts, because the blouses, because it's hot. That's what it was. Right. However, there were certain things that appertained then, very strong anti-Shah feeling among the lower class. And there was one man, Khomeini, not Khamenei, but Khomeini, who dies around 1989, who had been exiled by the Shah, and he was most of his time he spent in France. And during the time when there were a lot of riots against the Shah, he comes back, and he is really the creator of the dynasty. It's not his son. It's a mullah dynasty, a dynasty of religious leaders. In fact, there's only been two. He was the first one, and when he died, the fellow now Khamenei, who is now in his 80s, this fellow, he's about 86, either 80, I think he's 86, and he's a little older than I am. This fellow, or these people, they seized power with a wellspring of support because it's anti-Shah, and that was in 79. And now I want to say one thing about the Iranians. The Iranians are very smart. They are very, very smart, and don't ever forget that. And I think sometimes our own leader forgets that, but they're smart. So now, what do? They wanted to have an Islamic Republic, but they did it slowly. They didn't do it in a year or two. The army, there was a huge war with Iraq, and that army was decimated. Instead of expanding the army, Khomeini created a new army called the Islamic Guards. They have to guard Islam. And these guys were religious guys, and they were trained to be religious guys. And the school, of course, pushed religious guys.
That's the IRGC, the Islamic regime.
That's right. They became the Islamic, all right. And they are an army that's loyal to whom? To the Ayatollah and to the religious council, the Supreme Council, which technically appoints the Ayatollah. And they are the backbone of the army. Later on, was relegated to the borders only. They were like border patrol, the regular army. All the people that were assassinated by Israeli leaders of the Revolutionary Guards, not leaders of the regular army. The guys firing the missiles were the guys from the Revolutionary Guards. They're not the average, soldier in the Iranian army. The missile boats that would attack, and did at one point, attack American ships, they're run by the Revolutionary Guards. In other words, the Revolutionary Guards is the real army, and the Revolutionary Guards also forces Iranians to adhere to Islamic codes. For example, they punished people that didn't fast during Ramadan, if they knew about it, obviously. closed down everything during the day, all the restaurants and everything during that period, all sorts of things like this. And there's a case of a woman who flagrantly refused to wear traditional Muslim cover-up dress, chadur in Persian. This woman was ultimately executed. Islam generally restricts women. Now, some people will argue with me about this, but what do you mean by that? Again, the devil's in the definition. I really don't want to get into this, unless you push me. But the bottom line is that Islam, that over there, the women are restricted to some extent, and depending where. Now, it's interesting. The Saudis also used to restrict them. But I saw something very interesting recently. The Saudis were a very extreme sect, and that appertained in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, by the way, in Arabic is not called Saudi Arabia; it's just called Saudia, which means the Saudis' place, implicitly. Saudi is just the name of the Saudis in Arabic. So anyway, the Saudis began to change their attitude towards traditional Islam and militantly traditional Islam. And why? Because some of the radicals who attacked them, there was a massacre in a mosque there by the radicals, and they decided that they want to put up with the radicals. So, and how do you do that? You modify your acceptance of some of the more extreme ideas. I'm going to give you an idea what that means. For example, how does a woman get divorced in Islamic law?
I can answer this question because I saw this. I heard you make this joke several times to Mom, which was that the whole that you say 3 times, I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you.
Yeah. Well, now, but again, the devil's in the details. All right. And first of all, in Arabic, you have to say it in Arabic, obviously. Secondly, what happens? When can you say it? Can you say it just the way he said it? I divorce you 3 times. And is she divorced? According to the Wahhabis, yes. So a man gets angry with his wife. Get out, get out, get out. Get out and go and take your stuff. That also counts like that. Now,
it's so fascinating to me because the Jewish culture is the exact opposite of this, where they actually have steps that are put in there to purposefully slow down the ability to get divorced to avoid a quickie divorce.
Well, wait. Now, according to other schools of law, I believe the Hanafi, which is one of the more common ones, there have to be 3 menstrual periods passing between each of those declarations.
So this is more like the whole Biggie Smalls 3 times thing, where you have to say it in a mirror and candlelight at midnight type of thing. That's
yeah. It's got to be a little cooling off period. Also, I mean,
I know you don't know who Biggie Smalls is. Go on, Daddy.
All right. No.
So why were you telling us about the whole divorce thing? What got us?
In order to show you what was more extreme and more anti-feminist.
I see. In other words, the more extreme version made it very easy.
I would say is more
to kick your wife out.
I would say that it's more. The extreme one is a little more a lot more anti-feminist. Also, the women walk behind the husband. Usually,
they can't drive.
Well, now they can. Now you see, the Saudis now are changing the rules. I don't know in Iran if the women can drive or not. I do know that, and I was surprised to see it. I saw it on the computer here that the official radio station of the revolution of the Ayatollah. Sorry, 1 second. Excuse me. That they had a newscaster who was a woman. In fact, she was killed by the bombing. And they showed someone had a camera on when the bomb hit. and you saw the stage moving and
Yeah,
saw her fall down.
yeah,
And what was she dressed in? The chador or the abaya, the full head to toe covering.
yeah.
Couldn't she had to be dressed like that? That's the rules. Now that they put in slowly. They didn't at first. They didn't. At first, they only recommended it, and since it's sporadic enforcement, less punishment, and finally it became very. They were very smart and careful in the way they did everything, little steps. That's how
Interesting.
they did it to make it. What they would say is in
It's
Islamic.
kind of what you could see the way they've been taking over Europe, right? It's like slowly but surely more and more migrating
Well, no,
into
I'm talking
Europe.
about now the Ayatollah's government. But you're
No, I
right.
understand.
No,
But I'm saying,
jihad. I've said this on here before. There are three kinds of jihad. All right. The first is called stealth jihad, total stealth. You move in, you're friendly, you're nice to everybody. Then you get a little bit of pressure on people, which is where they are now. That's what's going on in Europe, in a number of places. And ultimately, when you're a total majority, then you can be violent to push people to doing, to accepting the religion, because Islam is a militant religion. They want and they work towards expanding Islam. That's the case.
but that's
And
not true of all Muslims, though. I mean,
no, definitely not. Definitely not.
so how can you? So I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you a
That's what
real.
they teach.
I'm going to ask you a question that I'm actually really curious about. How is there any way to just for someone who's a Westerner to distinguish between what is just good faith Muslim, and you can understand Muslims wanting to live in a community with other Muslims. So when it's like when it's a good faith, Westernization of a Muslim versus what you're describing as a stealth jihad, how would anyone know the difference?
We're talking about a Muslim state. Or you're talking about a non-Muslim.
A non-Muslim state. I'm talking about this happening in. I'm talking about this happening in England. I'm talking about this happening in Dearborn. I'm talking about this happening in New York. I'm talking about this happening in Missouri. I'm just in. And if so, how would anyone know whether this is actually good faith? Because most of them, I'm going to assume the majority of Muslims don't have a jihadist perspective. So, and I certainly not looking.
No, but they want to spread
Muslims.
the faith without not violence. Do it quiet. Do it friendly. Be nice to people. I mean, our cleaning lady, a very sweet lady, a very very nice person. And I don't really want to quote her here on the air, but very friendly. In fact, she actually
don't use her name.
No, I wouldn't use her name. I mean,
right.
She actually, when I had my regular phone on, which I had only for one day here, and it was you or your brother told her that I had my regular phone. Immediately, I got a phone call, and she says to me, "Dr. Nierman, how are you? What's going on?" And she says, "Are missiles being fired at you?" I said, "Well, they're not being fired at me, as I told you here." I told her what's going on. And she was really concerned, and I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. The same way I'm concerned about her. I mean, she had some problems with her and her family, with her husband, and I sort of tried to help her with that as much as advice, whatever.
Right.
Over the years, she's been there many decades, several decades.
She's a true friend. She's a true friend.
Yeah, she became a real friend. She is a friend.
Yeah. Let me get to some chats here real quick. No, I'm praying for Israel. Future generations won't know what a safe room is. Spuds got very upset with me that I read that you missed his joke when I read it while you were leaning out. So his joke was, Joe, read the directive language from Cuomo. He said, "All hail YZ, the ambassador to Romania." So I thought he wanted you to hear that. He said, and he even said, "Oh, heavy sigh, great Lawgic missed my joke." He was very bummed about that. So I just.
By the way, now I have to tell you, since you said that, at one point I was teaching a class of students foreign exchange, and I created 4 countries, and they had up and down.
He remembers that. That's why he's saying that, Steady. That's you told the story over about Romania and
right in Romania. You're right. Sorry.
Right.
Okay.
No, that's okay. I'm saying no. I don't mind you repeating it. He's pointing out that he remembers you saying it. That's the point. That's the point. Liz, hitting me with the 50. God bless you. Oops, that's you're not. You guys.
Well, what is it? 50 what? What is that?
50,
Oh, it is
50,
dollars. It is
yeah,
dollars. Thank you.
that's what I wanted.
Thank you.
That's what yeah. So God bless you. Apple hasn't fallen far from the tree, Joe. You are who you are because of your father, and it is a beautiful thing. Thank you so much, Liz. That's really
Thank you,
kind.
madam. Thank you. It's very sweet of you to say
thank
that.
you for the
Thank you
generous
so much.
birthday gift there. Could the exiled Shah regain power by seizing the mullah's wealth and redistributing it to the poor if he returns and declares this?
That's interesting. That is interesting. All right.
Allegan always asks.
By the way, just for your future reference, it's SHAH, and it's Mullah MULLAH. But anyway, I'm still a teacher a little bit. Okay. And the bottom line is that maybe he has to have groundswell support. Now, there's a very interesting. The Iranians do tend to be, and I hate to use this word because it's the wrong word in this context, but it's what we would say nationalistic. And there is now a lot of discussion among analysts. Did the Israeli bombing strengthen the government because the government is protecting them? And I know if you look at the announcements that the Iranian government made to their people, I mean, first of all, they claimed there was a victory. They claim that they're still going to destroy Israel. And they claim, which, by the way, does not necessarily ring well with everybody there at all, but that's what they're saying. And
what does not ring well?
The idea of destroying Israel. I don't think every Iranian wants to destroy Israel. I don't believe that for a minute. All right.
What percentage do you think do?
I don't know. Just say I don't know. I don't know enough about this.
Why do you think that it's not a universally held objective?
Because the less right wingers among them, certainly they like Israel. Before the mullahs were there, Israel had international relations with them. There were ambassadors. El Al Airlines flew. They when the revolution was seizing power, the last flight out took out all the people that worked in the El Al's Israeli Airlines. They flew direct flights from Iran. There are a large community of Jews in Iran. Many of them have left since and live in America and other places. There was constant interaction between Iran and Israel. Really, it was not the way it is now. And I remember when that El Al plane took off in 1979, he said, this is the last flight of an Israeli plane, out of Iran. That was the end of it, because of the mullahs. Iran was not, and especially under the Shah, not at all anti-Israel. On the contrary, in the Middle East, at that point, until the Accords in Camp David. Until then, there was basically Iran was the only place where there was good relations with Israel and a Muslim country. Yeah, so they had that. Could he seize?
So Saudis and UAE.
Well, oil will last. Oil will last a while. They have a lot of oil. And
why did the Abraham Accords work at that time? Like, why did that? What made it something that was able to work?
The Abraham Accords.
5 years ago.
First of all, the Abraham Accords. That's the term. If you use that term specifically, that's under first Trump won, and by then Iran was virulently anti-Israel.
Why do you think it worked then? Why do you think it worked with?
Because the Shah worked with the Jewish community. This is up till 1979.
That's not his question. His question is 5 years ago we had the signing of the Abraham Accords.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What made that viable 5 years ago that it wasn't viable 15 years ago?
All right. Well, one reason I think was they accepted reality.
UAE accepted reality, or Israel?
Yeah, that Israel's there. You know the Arabic proverb. It's the famous Arabic proverb. When your enemy is stronger than you, kiss his hand. And when you're stronger than he, cut it off. One of the things that I've always felt.
That comes from the Quran?
Not the Quran, but it's an Arab proverb.
It's an Arab, when your enemy is
I
stronger
don't
than
believe
you.
it's in the Quran, but I'm not sure.
When your enemy is stronger than you, kiss his hand. When you're stronger than him, cut it off.
Then he cut it off.
When you're stronger than he, cut it off. And that explains what we saw with the bombing, right? I mean, that's why I actually made a prediction that I think you would have been proud of earlier this week, the day before the ceasefire was called for. And I made it here that we're going to likely see a bombing from Iran to America against a base where there's going to be no fatalities of any Americans. And if you see that, know it's coordinated and that they just need to save face. But they're not. I didn't think they would be stupid enough to risk annihilation by genuinely trying to attack and surprise attack on an American base and try and kill as many Americans as they could because I felt that would be suicidal, and they recognized their weakness. And I was thinking of you when I was saying it because I remember you telling me about how they respect strength, and they're not going, if they know that they're outmatched, they're going to live to fight another day when they feel like they have a better, and then when they have the upper hand, that's when they'll basically try to kick you, try to
take you out. Yeah.
Try to take you out. Yeah, exactly. So,
cut it off. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why I remember learning this from you so many decades ago. And that's why when I saw Obama all the way back in 2009, when he first comes into office, doing his whole world tour of apologizing to the Middle East for what happened since 9/11, I was like, this is a sign of weakness that you're showing, which only is that's not the reaction from the Middle Easterner is. Not to say, oh, okay, now we have mutual respect and we're on the same page, that they smell weakness and they'll give you much less respect at that point. And because I think you taught me, and correct me please if I'm mistaken, that their mindset is if you're offering your hand in peace, it's because you know your own weakness and that means I should attack you. Now, did I misunderstand you on that, or is that accurate?
No, that's true. That is true. But and remember something else. Obama went to a madrasa. I assume he knows the Quran, Obama.
Oh, that's what you're
saying. Uh-huh.
Okay. And therefore what?
Mm-hmm. He's a you know his name.
Yeah, I understand.
Is Arabic for blessed. Hussein Obama.
Right. So you're saying he knew that he was basically asking for them to disrespect us?
Not exactly. He was reaching out to them because he wanted to tell them that there's a new sheriff in town, and we're going to be more Muslim,
pro-Muslim,
which he has been and is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think about the 12-day war? What is your perspective? Do you think that this is something that I asked you whether you think, I don't know if I got an answer from you. I certainly don't recall your answer as to whether or not this is going to be an extended peace or whether you expect facilities to flare up.
Iran continues to try to get a bomb, which they say they are going to do, and which I believe there's going to be another war. Right. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. If Iran has a nuclear weapon, they will use the nuclear weapon. I believe that as I'm sitting here at the moment. And they will. And when they call Israel the little Satan and America the great Satan, if they have the capacity to destroy America, there's the letter I wrote to the president. Let me see. Hold on a second.
I don't want you to start leaping through to find the letter, but
the letter. All right, I could find it pretty fast. But anyway,
I understand that. But why are you so sure that? Why? I mean, just because they say that they might refer to little Satan, great Satan, whatever it is. But when they know that they're ultimately going to perish if they do that, I mean,
I don't say the average Iranian wants that, but I'm saying that Khamenei wants that, and the mullahs and that council, I mean, they're going to appoint someone similar to him. Those people believe that if there's a war, if we kill them, they go to heaven. They kill us, we go to hell. That they believe that. They really believe that. And they, as religious person, I understand the force, the motivational force of religion. There was a comment made by somebody, and I yeah, of course he's right. That when Khamenei was in hiding, I assume he's no longer in hiding, but when he was in hiding, I was saying, well, kill him. Trump, I assume, didn't want him dead because he wants to make a deal, which these deals are a very nice idea, but here I don't think it's smart. But anyway, that's another issue.
Why don't you think it's smart?
The bottom line is that someone made the following comment about him, and they said he doesn't care if he's killed.
Who
would not care. Would not care if he's killed. He doesn't care. He's 86, and that's right, he's 86, and he has cancer. All right, so he'll be 87 this year too.
So in other words, if he's like a martyr, in that case, he becomes and he goes to heaven.
Yeah, right. He's gonna go to heaven. I'll go to heaven. But what he does care is that the revolution not be overturned.
In other words, preserve the regime. That's
of course, right. Any other regime will not do all the things.
Why would he not be concerned that the entire regime would be wiped out if he were to use nuclear weapons?
Because he doesn't think he's that important.
But I'm saying that the regime. But why would
in a way, he's very humble. He's religious. They're supposed to be humble.
Why would he not be concerned that would result in the overturning of the regime altogether?
Because he believes that the regime is strong. They have the Revolutionary Guard. They have a structure in which they control everything that's going on, because ultimately everything goes to a revolutionary council. Parliament, any law Parliament passes over there has to be approved by the Revolutionary Council, or it becomes abrogated.
So he thinks that if he was to drop a nuclear weapon, he doesn't think that Israel and or America would come marching on in there and basically overturning the entire country.
Whether he thinks that or not, if he drops a nuclear weapon on America, then what will America be able to do, he figures, maybe. I don't know. That I don't know. But I know he feels that if he destroys America, he knows what's going on in Europe. He knows what's going on generally with Islam. He wants Islam to spread around the world, and especially Shiite Islam to spread around the world, which is not the same as Orthodox Islam at all.
But the question I'm really trying to get at is that, people are talking about how, and I remember reading, and I don't remember if I heard it from you, I remember reading that if in fact he was to be destroyed, as long as he was making a serious enough dent on great Satan or little Satan, or whichever Satan that becomes his target, that he would feels that his destruction would be that much more, or in theory, even the destruction of the Iranian regime, that would be sending them all to heaven. That's like it's a worthwhile, it's a meritorious cause.
That. No question, he believes that.
Okay,
he believes that all the men that Israel killed the first day of the war went to heaven. I'm sure he believes that. Right. The devout Muslims and taken straight to heaven. I'm sure he believes that. No question in my mind. He believes that.
Just flown through Abu Dhabi on Saturday. There's less burqa in the airport than in Dearborn. Alcohol is freely available, and Western stores are everywhere. That's Abu Dhabi. Yeah, that's.
And the airport also. The airport is an oasis. It's funny because I was looking at ways of flying out of here, and one of them is through Abu Dhabi. And I turned to your stepmother and I go, Diana, would you like to go through Abu Dhabi? And she goes, what? Like this. She was not a happy camper at that idea. She's right here. Yeah, she's smiling. Anyway, the bottom line is that I don't really think going through Abu Dhabi would be too bad. at all. Even though, well, I'd wear a hat. I wouldn't put my yarmulke on. In fact, I would fly back from Abu Dhabi on Emirates to New York,
Mm-hmm.
and I could do that next week. Anyway,
Uzelian says,
was
do you
very
think
expensive. It was one way was 2,000. One way, not both ways.
Uzelian says, do you think at some point they might change and allow Reza Pahlavi, the Prince of Iran, to come back and rule? He seems to care about his homeland and his people.
Only if the mullah government is removed.
What do you think the chances are of something like that? That there will be an uprising where the mullah government will
less today than last week. I think that one of the reasons that the government there now wanted a ceasefire was they're concerned over that.
The Iranian government, you're saying?
The current government, the mullah government or the Ayatollah government.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think they're concerned over that. So therefore, they made peace or stopped fighting.
Right.
By the way, I read the announcement or translation. I don't know Farsi at all. I read the announcement that they sent out, how they won the war, and Trump came groveling to them for peace. I'm not making this up. There's this kind of language. I'm going to use
that's
that word.
what, of course, because that's why you do the firing back at them, so that this way you can say we won, and you fire back, and without getting any repercussions by telling Trump we're going to be firing at this time at this base, and please make sure that no one gets harmed. And then when there's no firing back, this is because you want to lie to your people. That's why you're doing it, of course. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm not at all surprised by that. I would have been surprised if they didn't. If they didn't, then there's no point to firing in the first place, right? So that should not be a surprise, right? So he says, I went to special education for spelling and grammar, but it did not work. Also did year in developmental kindergarten. Don't know. I like it to call it dumb kids. Karen Manning says, when was Islam established, and where was Muhammad born, and how fast did Islam spread? God bless your dad and Joe. Thank you, Karen. So
I'm going to get into
this. let's get the 3 to 5 minute, not the hour lecture.
All right, Muhammad was born in the year of the elephant because there was an invasion of Ethiopians with an elephant. Supposedly he was born there. It's either 570 or 71. He made the Hijra, which is the flight from Mecca to Medina, in 622. He died in 631.
Can you just pause when you're on the candy there? It's
what?
Nothing. Go on, Daddy. I'm sorry.
All right, and well, she asked when. All right, okay.
Right. No. Okay.
How fast did it spread? It spread through the Middle East, and then as far as the border of China, and in the West, by the year 710, it was at the border of China, and by 711, it was in southern Spain, what is today Spain. The word Gibraltar means the leader of the conquest of Spain was a man named Tariq. I would spell it Tariq. I would spell it. Jabal in Arabic means mountain. Gibraltar means Tariq's mountain. That's where Gibraltar comes from. The name Gibraltar comes from that.
That is so astonishing when you consider how limited travel was in the 7th, 8th centuries. To imagine that it basically was consuming the from the Far East to the western shores of Europe. That's an astonishing accomplishment to get in just a century. Doesn't it sound
right? Alexander the Great got to India in 10 years with an army.
But so you're saying they were conquering or they were missionizing?
No, they conquered.
Oh, really?
No, they conquered with the sword. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You asked me to be brief. That's brief.
Tribal war is your problem. Fight them on your side of the globe. If only that were true. If only that were true. That would be great. I would love if that were the case. And they could just be kept. You could just be kept in a box. That would be amazing. Unfortunately, Biden opened up our borders, and yeah, things don't just it doesn't take a year to cross the ocean anymore. Next generation UAE and Saudi Arabia understand that relying solely on oil is risky. They must
100%.
diversify their economies. Abraham's success demonstrates this. Notice they did nothing in the 12-day war. He's saying, yeah. So,
Absolutely, 100% right. No, I think there may be a deal in which involves the Saudis. I understand you can buy Israeli goods or you could. I assume it's still in Abu Dhabi. Yeah, I'm not surprised about the airport thing. That doesn't surprise me in the least.
right?
There are direct flights from Israel.
You think Saudi Arabia is going to sign the?
That's why I said I could go out that way if I want to go. My wife and I could go out that way. Yeah.
So you think there's a decent chance Saudi Arabia will sign a treaty with Israel sometime this year?
An agreement. Let's call it an agreement. It won't be a treaty. It's an agreement. Yeah, I think so.
It's a nice airport. Etihad and Emiratis are nice airlines. I think my flight attendant was Catholic. He did a sign of the cross on takeoff. Well, that seems pretty Catholic. I would
fascinating. Imagine. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm sure he spoke Arabic also. They all probably speak English and Arabic, and probably they have different ones that speak other languages on the plane, so they can accommodate, whatever languages are spoken by the passengers.
I know that you need to get to shul soon. So my question is, do you have any thoughts about like what's going on right now, or that you want to share, or anything else, so that I can get that in before you got to get out of here?
I do have to go. I would say that there's going to be another war because Iran has another nuclear site that wasn't touched, and it's big. They had 20 some odd trucks, 22 trucks or something worth of stuff that, as I said before, that they took out of order before it was destroyed, and they're going to pursue the program. And if you want peace, the best thing is to get rid of the government.
Get rid of the government.
You gotta get rid of that government.
I'll tell you this much: I definitely do not want America involved in this at all. Like at all. Like I think it's bad for everyone involved. I think it's bad for America. I think it's bad for Israel. I think it's bad for everyone. You want to tell me that if God wants to work some miracle and have that work out, that'd be awesome. But I'll tell you right now, American involvement.
Pickaxe Mountain is harder to blow up than Florida.
Okay, so if you have to send in IDF to go get them to go take out Pickaxe Mountain, find a way.
Well, IDF would have to have those planes.
No, I'm saying to actually go.
Well,
in
they'd
there.
have to.
They go with it. They have to find. Yeah, exactly. They'd have to have people on the ground. That's how they'd have to do it. What I'm saying is, I think that it's so deleterious to everyone involved in this relationship that it's just like at a certain point I'm just like, you know what, just take care of it yourself, because it's just not worth it. It's really not worth it.
Just remember something: Israel's the little Satan, America's the big Satan.
Yeah, I understand that, but what you have to understand about American sentiment, here's the reality about American sentiment. We've had 25 years going back to 9/11. It's 25 years that American sentiment is like our government lies to us all the time. There is such deep and great and well-earned distrust, proper distrust of the government and the agents who are reporting, and the heads of these agencies, even with Trump there, because people think that Trump, doesn't necessarily do such a great job in picking folks. The reality is that the government has done a marvelous job of earning our distrust, that they're basically full of hot garbage, and that the military-industrial complex wants to basically have Americans spend as much money on blowing folks up as possible, and that they're going to manufacture reasons to have a war anytime they want. And there's so much distrust that was earned by Bush and the lies that he told in order to start the Iraqi war, that at this point in time, I don't think that I think Trump got like an inkling as to the level of outrage just over dropping a couple of bombs, and the notion that we were, potentially on the verge of war. Even though some lunatics were screaming we're at war, which we certainly never were, but it's there is foundation for a perspective of like, look, we just don't believe. First of all, there's a great bit of disbelief and trust in Bibi, an assumption that he would do anything to drag drag America into fighting its war for them, and the people will play clips of Bibi talking about how there's been nuclear bombs, that Iran's developing a nuclear bomb going back to the early 1990s, much less. And then into the into the aughts, and then 10 years ago, and over again, that this is something he's been talking about all the time, and that's why his reputation in the West has been devastated ever since October 7th, and that I think much of the malignment is absurd and obscene and wrong, but that you can't disregard the culture of what we're dealing with here. So yeah, you might be able to do it, and I'll tell you right now, you'll have America turn on Israel next. You'll have them do it, and then they'll have America turn on them next, and that's worse than Iran maybe developing a bomb, because that's where things are headed right now. There's a reason that Mamdani won yesterday, and it's because the culture is turning that virulent. So I understand.
I
understand
believe
the stakes are high, but people need to understand the stakes on the other side of it, and that's why I say if they're developing a bomb, and that's a real genuine concern, then Israel has to figure out a way to take it out, because or else just pray to God that there's a miracle and that somehow we're all protected from whatever devastation Iran wants to wreak. Because I'll tell you that getting American involvement in this at this juncture is almost as devastating as having it's nearly as devastating as Iran having a bomb. That's my perception of how the culture is shifting, not just on one side of the aisle, on both sides of the aisle, on both sides of the right side and the left side of the aisle, and that's why I'm saying, like, just take care of yourself. Do it. I understand it might be difficult, but that's otherwise. You rather have Iran as an enemy or America as an enemy?
Well, I think that what I've seen happening in America, that I would not be surprised, regardless of what happens with American aid or not, that American support for Israel is going to erode absolutely over the next 25 years. Very definitely. I believe that's going to happen. I also believe there will be more anti-Semitism in America than there is now, and there is a lot. And Israel, for her part, is developing her arms industry. She's really building up her arms industry here, because she also realizes what I've just said and what you say.
Mm-hmm. They have to, because it's Trump's not going to be there forever.
And one of the things that I'm pretty sure I told you this on here. I'll repeat it again. Back in 1968, when I was doing research on the Crusades, there was a book titled "The History of the Crusades" in Arabic. So I took it out. I was in a research library, took it out, and I saw that didn't indicate that it was only about 40 pages, 50 pages. I said, that's nothing I want, but I'm curious to see. It was published in 1950. And I read the introduction, and the introduction said simply this, that we lost the war in 48. I'm writing this book to tell you that it took us 200 years to get rid of the Crusaders. If it takes us 200 years, we'll get rid of the Zionists.
Yeah.
They're in this for the long haul.
Yep.
And there's no problem with them making peace, for the Saudis to make peace, because Israel is strong. And the day, I don't say the day, they say the day, but the time they perceive that they could win a war against Israel, Israel will not be safe.
That's true.
That's the way it is. Israel will not be safe. Look, you saw October 7th. I mean,
Israel only remains as safe as God wills it.
well, that's true.
So,
That's another issue. But
so there you go.
But I'm talking now politically.
I understand politically. I'm just saying that, reliance on America is not or Trump or America or anything like that is it's fast. It's quickly eroding at this juncture, and that's why, as I'm sure a lot of Israelis were pleased or Zionists maybe been pleased to see America standing up and dropping bunker busters, but I'll tell you, I don't see a repeat on Pickaxe Mountain. I don't see that happening. And frankly, as American, I don't want them to do it. I want Israel to take care of this mess. Find a way to get it done. Because if it's a genuine problem, Daddy, I love you.
Okay, be well.
You need to go.
Yeah, well, your birthdays are over already over there.
Yes, my birthday ended an hour ago.
Post-birthday, yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, and Dad. I just want to thank you for doing such and being such an amazing dad. You were always
very sweet of you. Thank you so much.
Right.
You are a wonderful son. All the very, very best. Be well.
Hello, Dad. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you go. There you go. I'm just everything I was just saying there was just I'm not trying to tell you. I'm telling you what the lay of the land is. I'm not controlling what the lay of the land is. I'm just reading. I'm reading the writing. And if you can't read the writing, you want to pretend the writing says something other than what it says, then you're ignoring reality. And my objective is to help present reality as I perceive it. So, did we cover everything? I hope I got to every one of your questions. If I didn't, I apologize. It definitely was not my intent. And yeah. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining me. Tomorrow, Liberty Lockdown is going to be coming in here. That's probably not going to be quite as lovey-dovey. It's probably not. I consider him a friend. I've had him on here once before, and we got along great. I think that this issue that I was talking about with my dad, we probably don't see eye to eye on a lot on that. But I missed this. Genuine, just popping to say, I genuinely love you both. Also, obligatory space laser joke. That's funny. I'm not sure if I got that one or not. But yeah, so tomorrow evening, Liberty Lockdown was supposed to be here yesterday, but that obviously didn't work out. So, and he asked me if he could reschedule. So I put him in for tomorrow. So that's tomorrow at 10 o'clock, Liberty Lockdown in the house. Make sure you don't miss it. Thank you all for joining me and for the very generous over the last 2 weeks of people being very kind and generous to me with respect to my birthday. And I appreciate each and every one of you for the very kind support that I get from you every day. Have a great night, everyone. And as always, Godspeed.